Hey, this is downtown, man. All right, you're on? All right. Well, good morning. Thank you guys for being here this morning. We are here outside of Whittier Middle School. First off, just want to reinforce that what we're going to talk about today is not a school district initiative, but I think some of the ramifications of what we're going to talk about today will certainly have impact on the kids who attend our schools. And that's why when we talked about where would be a good place to make this announcement, we thought, what we're going to talk about today really is going to impact the kids in our community. And one of the buzzwords that we've seen the last, I'm going to hang on to this because this is tipping. One of the buzzwords we hear a lot right now in the national dialogue and our local dialogue is the term equity. And when we talk about the term equity, a lot of times, these are going to go. A lot of times we talk about racial equity. But equity means a lot of things. There's economic equity, there's social equity, there's digital equity. All those are important factors in building a community that provides everyone with the same access and the same opportunities. Last night, I saw a story on CNN. And the story was, it was two kids that were sitting outside of a Taco Bell. And they're sitting outside of Taco Bell to do their homework. This was in California. And they were on the sidewalk. And someone took a picture, and this picture went viral. And it was a stark reminder that not all kids and not all people in our community have the same access to connectivity. And that seems like in 2020 that shouldn't be an issue. It still is a huge issue. Millions of people in our country and a lot of people in our own community don't have the same digital access that some of us enjoy. When we talk about that topic and we talk about improving the lives of kids and of youth and providing them the right access, one thing we rolled out earlier this year was what was called the Sioux 52 initiative to get people to mentor and help provide kids access to mentors and resources that they maybe otherwise would not have access to. Well, the same thing applies to digital. And so my background, as a lot of you know, is in technology and is in the digital world. And I'm also a dad of 3 kids. And I know that right now, I do not know how my kids would be successfully navigating school without a good, reliable, not only internet connection in their home, but also the right technology, the hardware technology, as well as the programming to teach and educate these kids how to use this technology. So equity doesn't necessarily mean giving every child the same thing, but it means giving every child what they need to do their work. And that's different for every kid. And so today we're excited to launch a digital equity initiative in our city, what we are calling IDEA. And the IDEA stands for, the DEA is the Digital Equity Alliance piece of IDEA. And we are bringing together a group of people in our community to help us with this work. And Mike Grigsby with my team is going to talk about that in a minute. But this work is not done just by the city. As we've had to do in the past, whether it's the One Sioux Falls Fund, whether it's relying on things like Sioux 52, we have to rely on community partners to help us do this. Too often people look to the government and they say, hey, government, here's the problem, fix this problem. And it is our work to identify the problems, but then we have to bring in partners and resources to help us do that work. And so to talk more about that, I'm going to ask Paige Pearson-Meyer to come up. Paige is with Mid-Continent Communications, and she's going to talk a little bit about some of the work that they're going to be doing and some of the partnership that they're going to be providing to the city of Sioux Falls with IDEA and with digital equity in our city. So Paige, come on up.
Well, good morning, and thank you for the introduction, Paul. On behalf of Midco President and CEO Pat McAdera, we're pleased to make a $50,000 gift to fund the Inclusive Digital Equity Alliance. We've been talking about this task force for nearly a year now. In those conversations with Paul and Mike and Allie, Pat and I could really feel and see the passion that they have for people and for our community as a whole. That passion matches ours at Midco, where we really believe that we are a force for good in the communities that we serve. Digital equity is about participation. It's about all people fully participating in society, democracy, and the economy. To quote Pat, the intent of this financial investment is to look into digital equity more broadly and find solutions to address community needs at a deeper level. We're looking forward to partnering with the city and the Alliance to really dig in and do the work to solve digital equity challenges right here in Sioux Falls. Together, this task force will find out how we connect more students to education, bring jobs in the application process closer to people, and make sure folks have access to healthcare and much more. This truly is about improving people's quality of life. Thank you for your time today, and we look forward to what's next.
All right, thank you, Paige. One guy that has been really important, not only in the launch of this work, but also in helping move our city forward with smart city concepts and digital equity concepts, is a guy named Mike Grigsby. Mike is our Director of Innovation and Technology for the city. His background is in smart city work. We're lucky to have him here, and Mike's going to talk a little bit about specifically how this initial gift from Midco will help kick off the Inclusive Digital Equity Alliance. So, Mike?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to just begin by saying thank you to Midco for their partnership. This is going to be a long drawn-out campaign. It'll go on for many, many years. But to get it off the starting blocks, we need partners like Midco, and to have that partnership with Pat and Paige and the entire Midco family, I can't understate the importance of that. When we talk about digital equity and inclusion, it's the analogy that comes to mind is a rising tide lifts all boats. And what the digital equity and inclusion initiative will enhance the quality of life for so many people within our community. We're standing here right in front of Whittier School and looking at what the impacts of digital equity is for our youth. Could not have been more brought more to light during the COVID incident that we had, watching the kids not get connected to be able to do their schoolwork. So being able to have an initiative like this brought together with a number of stakeholders within the community. So our Inclusive Digital Equity Alliance, that's the IDEA task force that we'll be launching. It will be made up of government agencies, community stakeholders, nonprofit organizations, as well as citizens throughout the community. This is an important initiative to not only address the growing need that we have, but when we think about bridging the digital divide, there is so much more that is drawn into this, from a quality of life, understanding what the impact is to each and every citizen within the community. And we look back to how do we find better engagement, not only between citizens and the government, but between the government and the city. So I am excited to help launch this task force. Like I said, this is going to be an ongoing effort, but it'll be important to have that task force really focus in on what those key initiatives are going to be. The gift from Midco really helps us get started by bringing in consultants to help us lay out the framework for what that task force is going to be doing and what those key objectives are going to be early on. So this is a tremendous opportunity for the city, again, to engage with every individual and especially some of those in our most disadvantaged and vulnerable areas within the population. So I'm grateful for this opportunity, grateful again to be in Sioux Falls, and I look forward to partnering with not only Midco, but everybody that's going to be involved in this initiative. So, Mayor?
Thanks, Mike. A couple of just real specifics. So this gift from Midco is simply to kick off the consultant work that Mike talked about. We don't know what the challenges are. We don't know where they exist. Are they hardware challenges, software challenges, programming challenges, access challenges? That's what this group is going to do. We have 17 or 18 different people from the community who are going to be part of this task force. People from the school district, people from different maybe underrepresented communities that are going to help us with this work, because we don't pretend to have the answers right now, because we really don't know what those answers are. We don't even know the questions yet. So this is an important step in the city of Sioux Falls, because digital equity is a multi-million-dollar investment in any community. One of my good friends is a gentleman named Sam Liccardo. He's the mayor of San Jose, and digital equity is very important in San Jose. And they spend tens of millions of dollars annually in digital equity projects there. This is a start for us in the city of Sioux Falls to understand what those needs are. So under Mike's leadership and with the support of Midco, we're anxious to get started on this work. So with that, we'd certainly take any questions that you would have for myself, for Paige, or for Mike.
I think you got to my question a little bit with the San Jose, but are there other places that you sort of looked at to framework what you'll be doing here?
Yeah, for sure. So San Jose is one, obviously a very different market, but smaller markets from places like Chattanooga is a city that we looked at and looked at some of their digital equity work. Mike has a lot of experience from his work at Cisco before joining the city, working with digital equity initiatives across the country. So that's why he'll be able to contact some of those resources in other communities to say, hey, how did you deal with this problem? How did you bring the right people to the table on this? Which is, again, why Mike's going to be a real great asset for us in this work.
Were you, I saw that map earlier and the percentages and so on. Were you surprised or what emotion by seeing how many people don't have access in our modern town? What was your thought?
It's still a surprise to me. Every time I see the numbers and I see, we assume that everyone would have access to the internet in their home. It's like running water and electricity, and internet is a basic utility, we think. But to a lot of people, that's just not their reality. And I have a chance to go to Haiti every year. And Haiti, the average income is less than $1 a day. But I can tell you, you're hard-pressed to find a Haitian that doesn't have a phone because of that connectivity with that phone. In a lot of cases, it's a digital smartphone where they're topping it up with minutes and data. That is access to a network that they need to live. So when you have less than $1 a day income and you still have a phone in your pocket, to me that's always a stark reminder that how important the power of connectivity is in the world we live in today. So when we see the numbers that we see in Sioux Falls, that it's still, there's such a divide. The governor talks about the divide in the state, the digital divide, and it exists in rural areas. But it exists in urban areas too, like in the city of Sioux Falls. And so we got a lot of work to do on this, and that's why I think there's a lot of questions to be asked, a lot of answers that we don't know yet, and so that's why this work is so critical right now.
Is there any sort of time frame for when we're going to have everyone connected?
Mike, you want to answer that? Maybe repeat that question back.
You mind repeating the question?
Yeah. Is there any sort of time frame, a year, 10 years, 50 years, when we get the numbers up to where you would like to see them?
Yeah. When we talk about timeframes for the connection, that's a moving target. There's so many factors that go into that. One of the things that we are going to be focused in on is over the next 7 to 8 months, the task force is not only identifying what the framework and the key objectives are going to be, but also hitting some key wins, some early wins, looking at connectivity. How do we move the needle on getting the percentages up? But we also look at what that connectivity is going to accomplish for them. It's one thing to get people connected. What people do with that connection is something different entirely. And it's very, very important that we understand what digital literacy is. We also need to find out who our digital advocates are. So when we think about it from that standpoint, there's no end time frame to know when everybody's going to be connected. Obviously, we're going to continue to push towards that, but the biggest drive is going to be over the next 7 to 8 months as that task force ramps up and we really identify what those key objectives are and push towards digital literacy. Yeah.
Any other questions this morning?
Are you seeking out these task force members, looking for applications?
We have the task force members identified. We'll share them with you guys after the press conference concludes here. I think we're maybe waiting on 1 or 2 responses of people we've reached out to, but our goal with this was to provide or seek kind of the broadest swath of people throughout the community who represent some of the populations too that we're trying to reach. Maybe some of our populations that don't have the access that some of us may enjoy. And so we got representatives from the school district, folks from Smithfield, people representing some of our different ethnic and religious communities. We got some youth on this as well. So it's a real great group, and we'll share that after this press conference. So, all right. Seeing no other questions, really appreciate you guys being out here for this. This is an exciting announcement for our city. So thanks for taking some time.